it was kind of a collective sigh. Like, they almost wanted somebody to get hurt so that they could complain and get the rule changed so that they don't have to send their players. Did you feel like that in the weeks after the Paul George injury?
Well, I didn't feel that they necessarily wanted somebody to get hurt, but I think you hit it on the head in terms of like capitalizing on the situation. I don't think there's anybody that would want anyone to suffer that type of gruesome injury. That said, once it did take place, if I'm the owners, I would have done the same thing. It's like, hey, look, the evidence is right there, the proof is in the pudding, that type of thing. Now, I don't necessarily think that that's 100% fair. But did they do it? Yes, they did. Yes, they did. But from their perspective, if I'm even though I generally come from the player's perspective, if I'm the owners, I would actually kind of feel the same way. I know that it's kind of like a dirty or like unsaid thing. That the players are assets. Because you want to treat them as human beings as they clearly are. But if you're the owner and you know that you've got to pay Paul George, I don't have the numbers in front of me. You've got to pay him $19 million or $20 million this upcoming season. You see that. Excuse me. You see that injury and you're like, wow. Would that have happened if he were just training in his off season instead of playing this tournament? I'm not blaming the tournament. I'm not blaming Team USA, but I will say that if I'm an owner, I would think that way.
Looking at the whole superstar or not superstar, this team was actually fun to watch. A lot of fun to watch, and it was kind of fun to see these guys. Some guys grow up before our eyes. I think Marcus Cousins took. I'm not the only one to say this, but he took huge steps forward in, playing with other stars and guys that, him almost having to take a back seat to other guys, I think is going to help him. It's not necessarily going to help the Kings, but I think it's going to help him as, people perceive him. And he didn't have any incidents. You look at, Anthony Davis, people are finally starting to realize, that there's a little bit of people noticing that he was, in that top tier of players. Now, was driven home against these teams. Mm-hmm. Who impressed you the most during this FIBA World Cup from the U.S.?
Kenny, both of those guys I was very much impressed by. I know that I've been an Anthony Davis guy from the start. I was extremely impressed by his first year. Obviously, last year, he really put himself on the map with, especially with, some of the fans. He qualified for his first All-Star game, and then obviously following up with, such a positive showing, there in the FIBA. I think heading into the season, that's going to really, pay dividends, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how he can continue to develop and how, his Pelicans do in a tough Western Conference this season. But I was also very much impressed by Kenneth Faried. We've always seen the athleticism. He's been undersized, a 6'8" power forward, but he's really agile. He's strong. Obviously with the athleticism, he can kind of play bigger than his size, but he really showed, even more versatility than I quite realized throughout this tournament. I didn't know his game was going to translate quite as well as it did, and it was, that was good to see, especially if I'm not mistaken, he's heading into a contract year now. Kyrie Irving came up big and offensively, as did James Harden, when they really needed it, and that's always key. Of course, I would have liked to have seen more consistent defense throughout the tournament. But hey, look, I'm not going to complain. They blew everybody out. They won 9-0. They won by almost 40 in the championship game. Truthfully, I was impressed by all of them. They all played well, and it was good to see them really band together, especially with all of the with some of the doubts that were heading into the tournament. With some of the bigger names not being there.
It was kind of fun to see a guy like Faried in this type of atmosphere, because usually guys like Faried play for Brazil or Spain or they're other country's best player. The U.S. very rarely in this atmosphere has a spark plug that just does, all the dirty work and stuff. Those guys don't make the U.S. team typically. It was really refreshing to see a player like that actually playing for the U.S., playing significant minutes, and getting the love he's, deserves, because he doesn't get much attention in Denver.
You're exactly right, and what was really good about it was this roster. While some people were questioning it, I had my concerns over it, but especially because some of the guys that I kind of like, didn't quite make the cut. They did a great job of balancing the roster out. They had their scorers. They had obviously a plethora of big guys. People questioning Mason Plumlee being on the team. He played well. In a couple stretches. He obviously he didn't do all that much. But you know what? Everybody kind of served their role. Everybody did almost like when you look back at it, almost exactly what you would imagine Colangelo and and Coach K had in mind. So you know what? Props to them as well because they look at the job they've done. If I'm not mistaken, over the last 8 years since they took over, I think it was about it was 8 years ago. They've totally revitalized and revamped that program and absolutely deserve credit.
Looking at this upcoming season in the NBA, we got LeBron going back to Cleveland. We haven't really talked. I mean, the only time we've talked on Twitter has been pretty much about the Bulls and whether we think they're overrated or not. Do you think with the Bulls, obviously it's the East, but do you think that there's any overrating of them, or do you think it's they're properly rated because the East is weak?
Well, I do
because I actually think it's getting stronger. I mean, we talked about Washington, Charlotte. I think there's teams that are getting stronger, and it's still going to be perceived as weak, but I don't think it's as weak as everybody thinks.
Well, it's not going to be better than the Western Conference just yet, especially coming off of what was, if everybody's being honest, a historically bad year for the conference. Part of that was due to injuries. Part of that was due to, kind of the talent being, shifted around. But I absolutely agree. I think it's going to be much better, this upcoming year than it was last year. At least I've got my fingers crossed and hoping for, relative health throughout the conference. Charlotte got better. Cleveland clearly got better. Washington, in my opinion, got better. Even though, Ariza was good for them last year. I think Green Pierce. I think natural development of guys like Glenn Rice Jr. and Porter Jr. I think they're going to be significantly better. I think Bradley Beal and John Wall are going to have another spectacular year in the backcourt. Specifically to Chicago, I don't think that they're overrated. I don't think that they're underrated because the reality is nobody knows what you're going to get out of them until we see what type of health Derrick Rose is going to be in. Not in game 1, but in game 30, and then in game 40, and in game 55. He's got to stay healthy. So does Pau Gasol. So does Joakim Noah. A lot of those guys, so does Butler. Like a lot of those guys, and and the same can be said across the board, throughout the NBA, but in particular with these Chicago Bulls, they've got a lot of guys that have had injury concerns and multiple injury concerns over the past couple seasons. So, just like anybody else, but even more so with them, injuries and just availability is going to play, is going to pretty much be the determining factor in how the Bulls do this season.
Well, and it's not like those guys, they haven't had really deep playoff runs like they go to the finals every year or anything like that. But it's not like Thibodeau, he grinds those guys. It's almost like a Pat Riley type, where he plays his guys, he plays them a lot of minutes, and those guys, Joakim, he's not young. He has a lot of wear and tear. Jimmy Butler, is playing like 40 minutes a game. Those guys are not spring chickens anymore. I would be concerned about, I'd be more concerned injury-wise with the rest of the team than I would be with Derrick Rose, which might sound stupid, but just with all those minutes those guys have logged, I'd be a little concerned there.
No, you're exactly right. And you know what? We've heard these complaints before about Butler, now, and about Luol Deng in the past, and with other players as well. Thibodeau's going to, it's easy for me to sit on the sideline and say he's going to have to adjust his approach. But, look, if they want to be able to stay healthy, like, whether it's with Rose or with any of those other guys, they're going, he's going to have to kind of adjust his approach. Sometimes that's going to mean giving Pau Gasol, the third night of the third game in 4 nights off. Sometimes that's going to be monitoring Derrick Rose and making sure that he's not going 35-plus minutes, for a week straight. Considering, sitting, the second half of back-to-backs even in that situation. The same goes for Joakim Noah because, like you said, those guys are not spring chickens. Tom Thibodeau, for as great as he's been, for as spectacular of a defensive, defensive genius that he is, getting, something out of nothing seemingly every year. I wouldn't point the finger, but I will say he is responsible for the health of this team. So we shall see.
Well, Jabari, we have to go to a break before the end of the first hour. Would you like to tell everybody where we can find you on Twitter, where we can find your work, and any upcoming articles we should be expecting from you?
Absolutely. First, let me thank you for having me on. Like I said, it's always great to catch up. You can find me on Twitter at Jabari Davis NBA, at Jabari Davis NBA. My materials generally on basketballinsiders.com. I do a weekly chat session each Saturday at 12 p.m. Pacific. Everybody's encouraged. Everybody's encouraged and welcome to join. And hopefully on here again with you at some point throughout the season, Bob.
Absolutely. Well, Jabari, I appreciate you coming on. Everybody, if you want to call in after the break, it's 585-633-7487, and we'll see you after the break.